In a dimly lit room, silence hangs heavy in the air. A flickering candle struggles against the darkness. Old Thomas, 72, sits hunched over a battered table, a nearly empty whiskey bottle in front of him. His fingers tremble as they grip the edge of the table. Old Thomas, soft, soliloquizing, voice heavy with regret. They say time heals all wounds, but what they don't tell you is that time also steals. It takes your chances, your dreams, and if you're not careful, it takes everything. Time moves forward, never looking back. But in the quiet hours of regret, the past has a way of finding us, forcing us to face the choices we once made. The candlelight flickers violently. Shadows stretch across the room. A figure emerges from the darkness. Young Thomas, 17. Vibrant, full of life. Yet, something about him is uneasy. Young Thomas, looking around, confused. Who are you? Old Thomas lifts his head slowly. A bitter smile streaks across his face. Old Thomas, soft, shaking his head. Don't you recognize me? Young Thomas squints, hesitant. Nope. Old Thomas exhales, his voice laced with sorrow. Old Thomas, quiet, but firm. I am you. 55 years from now. Young Thomas's face shifts from curiosity to realization. He smirks, crossing his arms. Young Thomas, mocking, dismissive. Look at you. What the hell happened? Old Thomas's eyes darken. His grip tightens around the bottle. Old Thomas, bitter, voice sharp as a blade. You happened. Look at me. 70 years old. Alone. Broken. Empty. This is what you created. He gestures at the whiskey, the dim room. Young Thomas scoffs, shifting uncomfortably. Young Thomas, defensive, laughing it off. Me? No, old man. You did this. I was just a kid. I was just trying to live. Old Thomas' voice thick with emotion, said as if to himself. Youth is fearless. It believes in endless tomorrows. But the old know better. We have counted the cost. Thomas's voice wavers as he leans forward. Old Thomas, strained, voice rising, hands trembling. Live? You call that living? Wasting time. Chasing empty thrills. Ignoring every warning. You threw away chances I'll never get back. Young Thomas swallows hard but keeps his stance. Young Thomas, defensive, voice quieter. What was I supposed to do? Be perfect. Never make mistakes. I was young. I had time. A bitter laugh escapes old Thomas. His voice turns sharp, cutting through the silence. Old Thomas, eyes glistening, almost yelling. No. You had an opportunity. And you threw it away like it meant nothing. Every reckless choice you made, every wasted day, every moment you said, I'll do it later, it led to this. Young Thomas looks away, suddenly uncomfortable. Young Thomas, quiet, barely above a whisper. Is there still time? A long silence. Old Thomas lets out a broken, hollow laugh. His fingers wipe at his face, but the tears keep coming. Old Thomas, soft, resigned, voice cracking. For me. No. He lifts his head, his weary eyes locking onto his younger self. Old Thomas, urgent, pleading. But for you. Yes. Young Thomas watches as old Thomas collapses into his chair, defeated. Tears streak his face. His hands tremble. The weight of wasted years presses down on him. Old Thomas, whispering, voice raw, shaking his head. You think you have all the time in the world. That the future will wait for you. But it won't. Young Thomas clenches his fists, staring at the floor. Old Thomas, narrating, voice breaking, desperate plea. Every moment you waste as a young man, every time you say, I'll do it later, you're writing this story. My story. Young Thomas swallows hard. His cocky smirk is gone. He looks shaken, like he just saw his own funeral. Old Thomas, intense, voice cracking, voice shaking. Don't be me. Don't wait. Chase your dreams. Make the hard choices. Take the damn risks. Because one day, you'll wake up, and all you'll have left is regret. Just look at me now. A long, painful silence. Young Thomas exhales deeply, eyes closed. The weight of the future presses on him. Old Thomas, whispering, voice hollow, final plea. Go. Make the most of your youth. Correct your path now, while you still can. Because when that window closes, it's gone forever. A sharp, bitter silence. The candle flickers violently, then goes out. Darkness engulfs the room. To the young, time feels infinite. But the old know the truth. Tomorrow is never promised. What you do now determines the man you will become. Don't waste it.
Lesson from Old Thomas' story. Time is a ruthless force. It gives freely but never gives back. Old Thomas is proof of that. He sat in that dimly lit room, staring at the weight of his past, realizing too late that regret is a prison with no key. A young man full of life once stood where he did. Young Thomas, bold, stubborn, convinced that the world would wait for him. He had time, or so he thought. Mistakes, he shrugged them off. Warnings, he ignored them. He laughed in the face of consequences, believing that life would always give him another chance. But the clock never stops ticking. And one day he woke up, as Old Thomas. The arrogance was gone. The spark in his eyes had faded. The dreams he once held, buried under the weight of missed opportunities. He could no longer change the past. All he could do was sit across from his younger self, trying desperately to warn him. But here's the truth. You don't get the chance to argue with your future self. You won't get to stand in a dimly lit room, watching an old, broken version of yourself beg you to choose differently. There will be no dramatic confrontation, no second chance to rewrite your story. Your future self is being shaped right now by the choices you make today. So ask yourself, will you waste time believing you have more than you actually do? Will you ignore wisdom, thinking consequences won't reach you? Will you let regret become your final companion? Or will you wake up now before it's too late? Don't be Old Thomas, because when time runs out, there are no do-overs. Youth is a privilege, but it's also a test. Those who fail it do so by wasting their potential, refusing to listen, and postponing their growth. By the time they realize their mistake, the candle has almost burned out.
If you did enjoy this video, hit the like button and share. And do subscribe to this channel for more interesting video on inner dialogue.